So just a difference, we wanted to talk about the difference between taking care of a senior citizen versus taking care of a child. And I think the biggest difference is that with a child, you can give them new information and they go, ooh, and they soak it up and they go, yum, more information and learning about the world, and they get excited about how the world is and learning about how the world is. And they love new things, new ideas. Senior citizens, on the other hand, have a preset notion. Sorry, you were about to say something.
They think they know how the world works already.
Yeah.
And as a result, you try to give them new information, they say, no, I know how the world works, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Also, as a result, the creativity is only ever towards their way they want the world to work, or think the world should work, or whatever goal they want.
Well, wait a minute.
Like, for example,
everyone's creativity is that way, but...
but you can be creative in understanding new ideas, or you can be creative in only understanding new ideas if you get what you want.
Right. Within a very limited boundary?
Yes.
Yes.
What I mean by creative here is, just very creative at coming up with new, strange ways that she thinks the world works, even completely unrelated to how the world actually works, ways that she thinks the world works.
She does
very
have
creative.
Very creative mind, yes.
But
her solutions, like her brainstorming solutions, I mean, she is so much better at brainstorming solutions than we do. But it's within a very...
strange reality, but doesn't...
Well, exactly. I was going to say a very set reality. It doesn't allow for new inputs.
Yeah, that's also true, I suppose.
She's very flexible, but within a very...
But the inputs, the boundaries of her set reality change depending upon her delusion of the moment. Not dependent upon a set version of her reality.
I'm a little bit qualms with the word delusion, because all of us, we all live in a delusion.
That's a good point.
There isn't a single human being that doesn't live in a delusion.
Right.
We all think that we know how the world works, and we're all deluded. We're all like, we come up with our own realities of how the world works. And then it's a question of whether your reality matches my reality. And
reality is simply whatever is decided upon by the most people, or the most people present in the room. So
yes, that's true. What was I about to say before you? I wanted to hear your thought, but do you remember what I was about to say?
You were explaining how a child, you give them new information and they absorb it, but a senior citizen, you give them new information and they
reject it. Yeah, they're limited by the preset contradictions. That's the right word. Concept. Preset limitations of how the world works. I think that's my frustration, is I love interacting with new kids because you can explain to them how the world is. But you cannot explain to somebody who already knows. That's the reason why I get really, really frustrated when I interact with people, because there are a lot of people who think they know how the world works. That's the reason why I get really upset with you when you act arrogant, or like you think you know how the world works. I'm just like, no, don't go that way. Don't go that direction, because that's the beginning. Arrogance is the beginning of it.
So how are we allowed to be arrogant then? Because, as you said, you are telling new information, so what makes your information any more right or any more accurate than their information?
There's some food for you in the fridge.
Where is the fridge?
The white box, where the kitchen is.
Loving.
Yes.
Okay. What was I saying?
You were going to give a reasoning behind why you should be allowed to give new information.
No. No, I think we share the information. You know, she shares her information, I share my information.
Okay, so she gives you her information.
But,
and you give her your information.
but what I wanted to say, but the area I was gonna go in direction was confidence versus arrogance. So arrogance is when you think you know, you're a smart aleck and you think you know everything. Confidence is when you're willing to be, I want it preferred more this way, I don't want it this way, please. Confidence is when you're willing to be flexible with new information. There is a difference between arrogance and confidence, because
Right. Okay.
if you're confident in your information, then you're willing to hear new ideas and adapt what you know to those new ideas. Whereas arrogance is rejection of all other ideas.
Right.
So when you say who gets the right to present information,
It's simply that you get more information, fuller information. Everyone adds their piece of information, and you build up to a fuller collection of information.
right. So you get to add yours, she gets to add hers, I get to add mine. We all add it, and then we compile it together.
All disagreements come from either lack of information and or different information, most likely.
Right. And all conflicts and disagreements could be resolved by that if you're allowing for that. The problem occurs when somebody rejects the new information, and then you're like, well, what can you can't argue with a person like that, because you can't disagree with them, you can't teach them, you can't show them, you can't explain to them anything if they reject.
All new information.
Yeah. How do you explain to somebody? I was going to say, how do you explain to somebody the world is round? We won't go that way because that's a scandal. How do you explain to someone that the hallway is inside and not outside, if their assumption is that the hallway is outside?
You show them that the hallway is inside, but they will not remember that they are talking about the hallway being outside by the time they get in. Outside. Actually outside.
You remember that in the other house, there was the idea of when she sat down in one chair. There was this cool thing. We had this chair, or when she sat down in that one chair, her spatial awareness flipped,
180 degrees.
and there was absolutely nothing we could do to convince her and help her understand that the world had flipped for some reason in that chair. Like, as soon as she stood up, she was fine. When she sat down in the chair, anyways, it's fascinating to learn. So if you have care, or if you're starting to care for somebody who's a senior citizen, prepare yourself for that you're the one that's going to have to be adaptable.
You have to take in new information.
Yes.
You're the only person who can.
And you have to be creative to deal with the boundaries, and I mean, it's nice because there are preset things that you then have to adapt around, but yes, be prepared to be creative, patient, allowing that the world is set and done. And permaculture people, if anybody studies permaculture, a true permaculturist, because I have an understanding now that there's a whole bunch of people who think they know permaculture but who haven't gone through PDC classes, but if you've studied enough permaculture, then you will know that boundaries are actually beautiful things, because it allows, it's something about a painting that has, if it's a complete open blank, people like stare at it and go, what do I paint? What do I paint? But if you throw something on there, then people go, oh, I can work with what's there. And it allows for people. Also remember, the problem is the solution. And remember the 3 principles of
Earth care, people care, future care.
may you apply that into all aspects of your life. Shall we all do an Om to center ourselves? I like the yawn part here.